Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining me and allowing me to do a pre-tape video for class this week. I thought we'd do some yin, some seated stretching. So I hope you enjoy class and look forward to seeing you all soon again in person. Um, for class today, if you have some props at home, great. If not, we can do modifications. It's not something you need. But if you do have um, a pillow or a bolster, you could bring that in. If you have blocks at home, great. If not, no worries. If you have a strap, that's something you could use, or you can always use a belt or a tie, and then a blanket, or I just used a beach towel today. So if you have these things at home and you want to grab them, just go ahead and hit pause and come back and join me on your mat. So I talked about how we're going to do a yin practice today, but I wanted to start off first. Just take a moment to do some seated, some sort of seated posture. You could even do it lying down if you would prefer. So it's really up to you. I'm going to just start seated on a bolster. You can always sit on a block, blanket. Legs can really be in whatever shape. I just want you to find a comfortable position where you can sit down, relax, maybe take a deep breath and sigh it out. We'll take a few moments here just to let everything settle back to the earth. You might even close your eyes, and when you're ready, take a moment to bring your focus inward. You might even bring a hand or two to the belly as we notice how our body's feeling. We notice how our breath is moving here. And then when you're ready, we'll slowly start to take our time to slow down the pace of our breath to find that more mindful breathing that we practice in yoga. Again, hands can stay to the belly, or you can just let them relax down to your sides, whatever your preference might be. We'll take these first few moments to lengthen our breath, to practice slowing down the pace of our breath. And hopefully taking a little bit of time to become more present. Let's move through just a couple more rounds of breath before we come into our first shape for today. All right, when you're ready, slowly start to take your time to blink the eyes open if they were closed. And we're going to bring ourselves onto our mats, onto our backs, creating, first of all, maybe a pencil shape or just a full body shape here. Arms could reach long overhead, feet are reaching in that opposite direction. And then when you're ready, we're going to move into our banana shape. So in yin, we always try to start on the left side. In our other practice, other styles of practice, we usually start on the right side. So we're just doing things a little differently in yin. So stretching, we want to stretch the left side of the body. So we're going to reach the arms up overhead. Legs can come nice and long if they aren't already. The right hand is going to reach for the left wrist or forearm. And we're going to try to keep shoulders and hips glued flat to the earth. Just let the arms reach toward the right corner of the mat, and then let the feet do the same thing, reaching over toward the right side. So if you're having hard time seeing me. So I'm looking something like this, a little bit of a crescent shape. Arms are up over this way, legs are nice and long. If it is too much strain on your shoulders to have the arms overhead, you can always bring a bolster or a blanket or blocks behind you, and arms can rest on top of that pillow or prop. You could also let the elbows bend, let the arms kind of cross in that shape. That works just as well here. So finding what works for you. And as we hold these shapes, remember, we just want to give about 70% effort and let the body relax a little deeper into these stretches or these shapes. If you're feeling like you want a little bit of a deeper stretch through the lower half, you can cross left ankle over right. So looking something like this. And notice as I reach deeper to the right, I'm not turning, lifting the shoulders. They're still glued to the earth. Shoulders and hips. You can always let the eyes stay closed, or you could keep them open. Just finding a focal point to look at to try and help the mind from wandering. The main things we want to focus on is where we're feeling the stretch through the body, making sure we're not feeling any pain, any sharp pinching or anything like that. If you do feel something of that nature with pain, you could just ease off that shape slightly. Remember, you're not stuck in this shape. We do try to hold them a little longer, but you can always release. We don't want any pain when we're stretching and moving through these shapes. So you might notice where we're feeling this stretch the most is probably the shoulder, the side body, intercostal muscles, all the way down through the hip and down toward the leg. Let's take a few more breaths on this side. And then before we switch over to the opposite side, we want to pause at center in what's called a rebound shape. So on your next inhale, take your time to slowly bring everything back through center. Arms can stay nice and long overhead, or you might let them come down to your side. Legs can come long, or if it feels more comfortable on your lower back, you can let the knees bend here. We're just going to pause, find some stillness before we move to the other side. So this gives us a moment to notice how everything's feeling. You might notice a deeper stretch on this side. It might feel a little uneven until we move to the other side. But the main point is just so you can take a moment and be more mindful, more connected with your body. So taking one more breath here. And then when you're ready, we'll reset to the opposite side. So this shape might look exactly the same as it did on the other side. You might start with long legs and long arms. Left hand might find the right forearm or wrist this time as we slowly let it slide over toward the left corner of the mat. And then feet can slide over toward that left corner, creating a crescent shape with the body, keeping the shoulders and the hips connected to the mat. Or you can take those other modifications, letting the arms rest on top of the bolster, or maybe letting the arms cross here. Wherever you're at, as you move into that shape, I want you to really listen to your body. Again, just because we did a certain shape on one side doesn't mean it has to be the exact same on the other side. Sometimes we have one side that's a little tighter, or one side that might have an injury versus the other. So again, find that 70% effort and then relax into the shape as we hold here and continue our breath. Sometimes the hardest part of these shapes in yin is quieting our mind and keeping our focus on how our body's feeling or keeping our focus on our breath. So if your mind starts to wander, that's okay. Acknowledge it and then just set it to the side and bring your focus back to breath and the shape that you're creating. We'll take a few more breaths on this side. Remember that if you need to release from a shape a little earlier, that's always fine. You can come back to center and just pause for some breath. 3 more rounds here. When you're ready, just take your time to bring everything back to your center. Again, arms can stay long overhead, or you can bring them down to your side. Legs can walk out long, or you might bend one or both knees here. Just again, taking a moment to notice how everything feels before we move to the opposite side. I'm sorry, to a different stretch. When you're ready, we'll take our time just to roll over to one side, or you can always hug the knees into the body, rock and roll to a seated position. I'm going to turn and face you, but you can stay forward on your mat if you like. So this next shape we're going to do is called caterpillar. So our caterpillar shape is basically a forward fold, but we're going to add crossing at the ankles. So again, sitting nice and tall, we're going to cross the left ankle over the right first. And then you want to reposition their feet so they're back to the center. I forgot to mention, sorry, if your hamstrings are a little tight, you can always roll up a blanket to kind of sit on, give yourself a little bit of space. You can also bring in a block, maybe a blanket on top of it can make it more comfortable, or a pillow, or if you have a bolster, you could sit up on that bolster to do this next shape on either side. So either way, whichever one's most comfortable for you. Again, sitting on your bottom, crossing left ankle over the right, and then repositioning the feet so we've got them back through center. From here, blocks might be nice to come into play, letting the hands have a little something to feel supported. You don't have to use the blocks. They can always reach toward the earth if you're not too far, if you're not lifted on a prop. Hands can always reach to the earth. So when you're ready, what we're going to do, typically we have a flat back as we come into folds, but in this yin shape, we're going to make sure we're supported by the blocks, and then we're just going to let our posture relax. So tailbone might tuck under slightly, And then we'll tip forward, just letting the head relax toward the knees. So some of us might look a little like this, like seated with the head relaxing toward the knees. Some of us might be able to relax a little deeper. So again, it's important as we come into these shapes to only find that 70% effort, because as we hold it, your body's naturally going to deepen into those shapes. So we don't want to start off at our deepest shape here. So as you start to relax into this shape, you'll slowly start to notice a little bit of a stretch along the spine and all the way down, maybe even through the back of the legs. Again, no pinching, no sharp pain. So if you start to notice any of that, go ahead and just release up. Sitting nice and tall, and then try to take a little less deeper variation of that shape. Sometimes I like the blocks because I can let my forearms rest on them or my elbows rather than my hands having that weight on them. So really whatever works best for you. Remembering that long, slow, steady pace of breath. Remembering to be mindful of what your body's feeling so you can become more connected, so you can know if you need to release a shape at any point in time. We're just going to take a couple more breaths in this variation or on the side before we rebound and switch. When your next inhale rolls around, take your time. Use your hands to slowly walk yourself up to a tall seated position. You can uncross the legs. You might leave them long. You might kind of bounce them out a little bit. Some people prefer to pull the legs in for that easy shape or crisscross shape, whatever you're most comfortable in. We'll take a few breaths here before we reset and cross right ankle over the left. All right, when you're ready, this time right ankle crosses over the left. Remember to recenter the legs, and then hands can be to the blocks or to the earth as we take our time to slowly start to relax the head down toward the knees. Again, feeling that stretch all the way down the spine, maybe even toward the back of the legs here. All right, moving through one more breath here. And then just take your time. Slowly walk yourself up nice and tall. Find that tall posture. Legs will uncross. We might just keep the legs nice and long. We might give the legs a little bit of movement, or maybe even coming into that seated easy shape with the legs crossed. Few breaths here before we move into our next shape. All right, so when you're ready, we'll move into that next shape. We're going to be stretching along the feet and the ankles a little bit. So we'll be on the knees for this one. I'll walk you through some different variations here in a second. But if you're going to be on your knees, we're going to bring a blanket out, possibly, and maybe even that block. So bring the knees come onto the blankets. And then if you look behind me, it looks like I'm going to go into a tabletop, and I've just got my toes tucked under though. And then I'll sit back toward the heels. So this shape is going to stretch along the feet, just opening through the toes and strengthening the ankles. This can be kind of a tricky one to stay seated here for a while. So a couple other things we can do is we can bring a block on that highest height and sit it underneath the sit bones. So we're still getting a stretch. You're just taking a little bit of weight, a little bit of pressure off the feet. You can move it down to that second height, or you can turn your palms facing forward, sliding them down on your legs, and then just let the hands press toward the earth. So now we're actually getting a double stretch. We're still stretching along the feet and the ankles, but we're also getting a little bit of a forearm stretch here as well. So either of these would work. And while you're setting up for that, I will give you an extra option. Some of us might have other issues with the feet that might be a little trickier to sit on our knees like that. So that other option is to use our strap, bringing it, looping it around near the top of the feet by the toes, and just holding on nice and tight, and then gently pulling it back. So we're going to stretch through the feet, just not quite as deep here. Any of those variations. And we might even start here, sitting nice and tall with the toes under, and then decide after a few breaths that we add a little bit of a forearm stretch in as well. You can also release if you need a little less of this. You could sit back and release the forearm stretch too. So we're trying to hold these stretches a little longer, but if you need to adjust them as we're holding, that's fine as well. All right, taking one more round of breath here. And then when you're ready to release the shape, you can bring your hands forward. You might just point and flex through the feet, maybe even add some little circles here. So if you're seated, you can do the same thing, just pointing and flexing through the feet, adding a couple little circles in or out. And then we'll slowly come back to reset to the next shape. So now, same thing, we're just gonna let the toenails touch toward the mat. So instead of tucking the toes under, we're gonna let toenails come flat to the mat. So again, you can sit back. You might have that block underneath your seat. You might be sitting on top of the heels. If you are seated, and not on your knees, what you can do is just bring the toes pointed. And again, not giving, so something like this, just letting the toes point down. So we're not really giving that full 70% effort, but trying to point the toes for a few seconds and then just release. Finding which variation works best for you. Then trying to focus on how you're feeling. Focus on your breath. Moving through one more round of breath here. And when you're ready, we'll start to release. So, lean forward, creating that tabletop, rolling out the ankles here, or if you're seated, you can always make little circles with the ankles. And then we'll start to set up for our next shape. So our next shape is going to be a little bit of a back bend, supported back bend. This one's called reclined fish. So there's lots of different variations on how to do this. Most gentle variation is going to be with no prop. So just coming onto your back, letting your palms open up. And we want our arms to be slightly out to the side so we can open through the shoulders, letting them relax back down to the mat. Now, if you want a little bit of a deeper stretch or a deeper back bend, we can bring a blanket. And I just rolled mine up. Looks like a little cylinder here. I'm going to bring it along the base of the spine. And then some people like to have a little bit of a pillow right here. So that little bit of space, I don't know if you can see, if that little bit of space bothers your neck, you can always bring a pillow under here to support it. Same thing with the arms. Palms are facing up, arms are slightly away from the body to open up to the heart and the shoulders. Now legs, you can have bent knees or you could bring the legs long. So that's just a personal preference here. If we want to go a little deeper, you can bring, which is usually my favorite. We'll see, every day is a little bit different. You could always bring in a bolster or any pillow should work. Bring it to the lower part of the spine. Slowly starting to relax back. Again, if that little space right here is uncomfortable, that extra stretch for the neck, the spine, you can bring an extra pillow or a blanket in to make it a little more comfortable here. So knees can be bent or legs can be long. Arms are to your side with the palms facing upward. So anytime we come into these back bend shapes, not only does it create a back bend, little stretch for your lower back, it can also open up through the heart, and the shoulders, the chest here. Remembering to pay attention to the body. And honoring if you just need to move a little or add a prop or take away a prop, you can always do so. Moving through one more round of breath. And then when you're ready to release from this shape, just roll over to one side of your body. Just take an arm to brush whatever those spots might have been out of the way. We'll roll back down to the earth. So you might have long legs here. You might have the knees bent. Arms can really go wherever you're most comfortable. Let's just take a few breaths to notice how our body's feeling once we come back flat to the earth. And then when you're ready, you can hug the knees into the body and either roll to one side and press up to seated, or you can rock and roll up to seated. We'll take our time to move into our next shape, which is going to be our wide leg straddle. So this is another one of those seated shapes that you can always bring your blanket or a bolster into play if you would like to bring it underneath your rear to give you just a little bit of space here. But sorry if the hamstrings or quads are a little bit tight. Glutes, rather. Anyways, for that wide leg straddle, it's just what it sounds like. We're going to let legs come out to a wide leg. Now, I don't want it your widest variation. Again, think 70%. And then I want you to kind of give the legs a little bit of a shake here. Try to let the feet relax. So we want to make sure the toes aren't flexed back, but just relaxed. Then when you're ready, hands can come to the earth, or you can bring the hands to one or two blocks. And just like with that caterpillar, we're just going to slowly start to let the spine relax. Tailbone tucks under slightly, and we'll slowly start to walk our hands forward, letting the head relax toward the earth. So benefits of our wide leg straddle, we're opening through the hips, through the groin, and the back of the thighs. You might even let forearms rest on top of the block here. Just taking one more round of breath, and then we'll slowly start to use our hands to walk ourselves back up to that tall seated position. So whatever is comfortable for you here. Sometimes I just pull one leg in, you might take both, just so you can take that spine nice and tall, and take a few breaths here. Our next shape we're going to be moving into is going to be our reclined pigeon. So I think we're all pretty familiar with that one. Taking your time as you come into reclined pigeon. Props you might want to have nearby, maybe a block, maybe a block or two, or maybe a strap. And we'll talk about that why here in just a moment. So as you come onto your back, we're going to let the feet walk up the mat, knees are bent. We're going to take left ankle over right first. So making a little bit of a figure four shape with the legs. Right here might be a good place to stop so you feel a little bit of a stretch. A little bit of opening through that left hip. Another option, you can bring a hand or a block, just gently pressing that knee away. You could also take a block or two underneath the right foot to bring that right knee pressing a little more forward, opening up that hip a little bit more here. Another option, hands can reach through the center and around the back of that right leg, or maybe they reach around the front toward the knee here. So any of those variations you can take to find your figure four or your reclined pigeon shape. The strap, I forgot to mention the strap. The strap can always be used if you don't want to use your hands. If you don't want your shoulders reaching forward, you could bring the strap around the back of the leg to help bring it a little closer to you as well. Just taking a few more breaths here on this side. And then today, instead of switching over, or instead of taking a rebound and then switching to the other side, we're going to add one more piece onto this side. So wherever you might be, we're going to slowly let that right foot make its way down to the earth. And then we're going to come into what's called twisted root. So a couple different ways we can do this is we've got right foot to the earth, left ankle still crossed over the right knee. You might let that foot, left foot, fall over toward the right. It might rest on top of a rock or a bolster if you want a little bit more of a gentle twist. It might even be able to rest toward the earth. If you want a deeper twist, you can cross the legs a little more, maybe even tuck that left toe behind the right ankle, making them a little bit more twisted up there as they fall over to the right. If all of this is just too much and you want to bring both feet flat to the earth, letting the knees fall to the right, that's fine as well. So finding that twist after that deep hip opener just helps relieve any tension in the spine your body might be holding. While we're here twisting, we can always let the hands rest at the belly. They can rest to the side. Some people choose to make cactus arms, arms overhead. It's really whatever is most comfortable for you. And knowing that you're not stuck in any shapes at any point in time, if you need to release and reset, feel free to do so. Remembering our long, slow pace of breath, focusing on how our body's feeling. And when you're ready, taking your time to come back through center. You might pause at center. It might feel good to just get the knees a little bit of a windshield wiper here. And then when you're ready, you might notice one side feeling slightly different from the other side since we did a lot of work, a couple shapes on the left side. Let's switch over to the right. So letting this time the right ankle cross over the left, finding that figure four shape for our hip opener. Remember, you have options to stay right here. You can add a block or two underneath that left foot. You might bring the hands behind the left leg or in front of the left leg here. You might even just have that foot down to the earth wherever you're at. Just breathe into the hip. Taking one more breath on this side. And then when you're ready, if you have your foot on a prop, or if you're using a strap, you can remove it. Let the left foot come to the earth. Right ankle can stay crossed. And the right foot guide over toward the earth. Maybe a block or a bolster. Or remember, if you would like to deepen that shape, you can always kind of twist up the legs a little bit more here so the right ankle is tucked behind the left leg. Wherever you're at, take a moment just to move into whatever that shape might be. Your variation of twist, you can always bring both feet flat and let the knees fall off to the left. And your arms come to whatever variation feels most comfortable here for you. Slowly taking your time through one more breath on this side. We're releasing everything back to center, both feet planted to the ground. Again, you might stay right here. You might give the knees just a little bit of a windshield wiper. So our last shape for our class is going to be a little bit of an inversion. So a couple different ways we can do this. You can create supported bridge. So that might mean using a block blanket or bolster, just coming onto your back, walking the feet up the mat close to your rear. You can take a rolled up blanket, bring it underneath the lower part of the back just to lift the hips a little bit. You can also use a block, doing the same thing, or maybe a bolster or a pillow. If you have furniture nearby, just like when we're in class, sometimes we use chairs. You can kind of scooch there and let the feet rest up on the furniture here. Or if you have a wall nearby, that's always another option. So finding which variation, which inversion works best for you. This just helps improve circulation. Lets the body just relax a little bit more here towards the end of our practice. Arms can go wherever you're most comfortable. You can certainly bring in other props, maybe a blanket to bring on top of your legs if you're a little cold. Maybe you bring a blanket underneath the head if you need a little bit of support there. You can always feel free to let the eyes close here, or you can keep them open. Remembering to keep your breath nice and slow, lengthening through the inhale and exhale. We'll take 2 more breaths. And then we can move through any final stretches that the body might be calling for before we move into our Shavasana. So if you're really enjoying this shape, you can always stay right here for your Shavasana, or you can take a moment to just hug the knees into the body and create a different shape, maybe just laying flat on your mat. You might choose to come back onto your back, letting the knees fall wide for a bound angle shape with or without the support of blocks underneath the knees. You might take that supportive, constructive rest shape, letting the knees come together, feet fall wide. Any of these variations, whatever brings most comfort to you. Once you move through any final stretches your body is calling for, then you can move into a restful shape, bringing some peace and stillness, allowing your body to take in all the work that you've done today. Our reading today goes like this. The emotions of daily life are the stuff of our transformation. Spend today observing your emotions, irritation, boredom, anxiety. Let them rise and fall, and remember, you are not your feelings. They offer you insight into yourself. That's all. Let them go. The emotions of daily life are the stuff of our transformation. Let's slowly start to take some time now, if you haven't yet already, just to find some awareness back into your body. Maybe finding movement through the fingers or the toes. Just taking time when you're ready. Just slowly hug the knees into the body, maybe rocking gently side to side before ultimately rolling over to one side, maybe even using an arm like a pillow, and just taking a few breaths on that side. When you're ready, we'll slowly bring ourselves up to a seated position. Bringing the palms together and pressing the thumbs back to the heart. Again, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for hanging in there with me and joining me for a pre-tape yoga session. And thank you for taking time for yourselves today. It's with much great respect and love. Namaste. Thanks again, everyone.